Hello, this is Peggy Seeger in Oxford, England, and you are listening to Retrospectives with John Broughton on KC Radio 97.7 FM.
When I saw the album title, First Farewell, I immediately thought of Brother Mike's annual farewell reunion series. So could we look forward to a second farewell and a third farewell?
I don't think I can better this one.
Yeah.
I don't think so. But then I thought I couldn't better Everything Changes, and my voice had moved down. My voice is happiest when it's in my boots. So I have no idea, but the title is several reasons. First of all, that does open for a second farewell. Next of all, the title was based on Annual Farewell Concert, which I thought was hilarious when I first heard Mike talk about it. But what it is to me, a first farewell is when you're at the airport with someone you really love and you don't want to say goodbye to. And the first farewell is where you give a hug at the place where the passenger and the person who's accompanying them who can't go through the gate stands, and you give a hug. That's your first farewell. And the second farewell is when they walk down out of sight and they turn and give you a wave. That's the second farewell. Mm-hmm. So to me, there would be a first and there would be a second. There would never be a third. I'm 86 in 2 weeks. That's ridiculous.
Even so, I couldn't imagine you completely going into retirement from making music. I mean, Brother Pete went well into his 90s. So would you like to emulate that?
Well, I don't know what the word retire means. I play every day. We gave a concert a week ago in London. It was weird sitting in front of a whole stack of masked people 6 feet apart. It was a whole new vibe, as they say. I like the word vibration. Vibe doesn't work for me because you get a vibration from the audience. You really do. You get a feedback that you know instantly of whether what you're doing is what they need or what they want. So, but it was weird. And of course, COVID has given us a lot of new jokes. The one I like best is this is the first time I can walk into a bank with a mask on and demand money. I really like some of the jokes, yeah.
Yeah, how did that show go? I had a ticket to it, but I made the mistake of thinking I'd be able to catch it later, and it was for live online only.
That's all right. That's okay. It'll happen again.
So this actually is your final album. I imagine you couldn't pick a more joyful way of recording it, being the family affair that it was.
Well, if it was going to be more joyful, it would have more of my son Neil on it, because Neil was not on it a lot. And really the three musicians who are on First Farewell, Callum is most, because we record in his studio, and I've gotten more used to working with him because Neil is always up and away, and he's never available. Kate I don't play with a whole lot, but we make songs. But Callum is the one that I've been with the most because of circumstances,
When they were growing up, were both Neil and Callum always destined to be musically inclined? I guess it would have been hard for them to escape music.
I don't know that anybody is destined to be musical. I mean, Mike's children grew up listening to him playing and playing and playing and playing, and none of them took to it. Pete's children heard him playing and playing and playing and never took to it. I don't know why ours did. I have no idea. Maybe because they really liked the songs, and because we always had musical instruments hanging on the wall. Pete didn't have any hanging on his wall. Mike didn't have any hanging on his wall. But you have to dangle these like bait in front of a child. And I think an average child does want to play something. They do. And I have this thing that somebody will say, well, I did try the clarinet, but I'm not musical and it didn't work. I said, well, did you think about trying the harp? And no, they didn't. They didn't think of another. I mean, I can't play instruments that you blow. I'm useless at it completely. I can play the piano, which is a percussion instrument. I can play string instruments. I had a try at the fiddle, but the fiddle gave me up, and it just I would never have been a fiddler. It just didn't work. So our kids playing music probably was proximity to instruments and just hearing Ewan and me bang away all the time singing and making new songs, which they really liked and joined in on.
The boys, their approach to music, is there anything that stands out about how they approach their music that differs to how Ewan and yourself would have approached music back in the day?
Oh, they entered pop music.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yes, they formed bands, and I'm only just beginning to hear from them all of the things they did musically that we never even knew about.
Oh.
Yeah. We were snobs, and they didn't tell us when they were going to play somewhere because they knew we wouldn't like the music they were doing. In actual fact, we might have liked it. You know?
I saw mentioned...
They're both songwriters, and they're both making albums right now.
Oh, great. I saw mentioned in the liner notes that Neil in particular was reluctant or hesitant about co-writing with you. Was there any particular reason for that?
I've never asked. I have to ask him. I don't know, because Neil and I are very alike.
Yeah.
My children are evenly distributed between likenesses to Ewan and myself. Neil is a Seeger, without a doubt. He's laid back, and he's quiet, and he's kind of observant. Callum is a McCall, and he's feisty, and he'll fight. And Kitty is both of them, you know. But I'll have to ask him, blank out. I did not ask him. I didn't want to put him on the spot. But he was apparently surprised that we worked so easily. And I want to write another song with him. I want to write more songs with him. So that might be a reason for another CD. There was one of the songs that didn't go on the CD, one that Callum and I wrote, called The Day We Went to Mars, which is really quite funny, but the CD didn't take to it.
Ah.
It didn't seem the right thing to put on the CD. So there's already a start for another album.
The Invisible Woman was the song you wrote with Neil. Can you tell us about the origins of that one?
He came up from London. I live in Oxford. And he just lay down on my 3/4 sofa with his feet dangling over the edge. And we looked at each other and said, what should we write about? Usually with Callum, one of us has an idea, or Callum will start playing a riff on the guitar, and that'll give me an idea, and then he'll pick it up and do. We have our routine, Callum and me. But with Neil, we just kind of looked at each other blankly because I didn't have an idea. Or rather, I have buckets of ideas, but I didn't want to throw them in. I wanted to see what happened. And so we started talking about where we were in life. And he said, as a man, he says, I'm 61. He's now 62. And he says, I feel as if I've gotten invisible. And a little bit of further investigation showed that he really felt invisible to young women. That's what it was. And that he was too old to be out of the game, despite the fact that he's married to somebody he loves dearly and is settled for life and happy with that. But he feels that he's socially invisible. I said, you are anything but that. You're a handsome man, and you're what some men would think of as in the prime of life. 60 years old is really an excellent age for a man, the way 45 is for a woman. And I said, if you want invisibility, try being a woman of 85, Mm-hmm. And so he swung immediately to that. He didn't start making a song about himself. He said, well, how about a song called The Invisible Woman? And so that, boom, it was written in about 2 hours.
Wow.
And then it was honed via email, this version, that version, the next version, etc. And he was very easy to work with. I think he was surprised at how easily it and we just, when you're songwriting by yourself, it's very hard to know sometimes what's good. And sometimes when you're working with someone else, you have an idea and you put it forward, and it goes down in the pile, it goes into the pot like stew. And when the song is made, your little gem of a line might not be in it. Or it might be in it, and the other person says, well, it doesn't really fit in here. Where should we put it? Or this verse, and it happens to be your verse, or it could be their verse, doesn't fit in with the whole song. Let's junk it. And I'm really so surprised working with all three, with Kate, with Neil, and with Callum, that all four of us can just dispense with the ideas. We put an idea forward, and Kate says, well, that doesn't really work. Let's do such and such. So I say, okay. Or I say, why doesn't it work? Let's put it here. Let's change a word in it. So co-writing, to me, is absolutely fascinating, because all three of these people are dear to me, and they all work in different areas of music. They don't work in folk music. They work in other kinds of music. So I'm taken out of my box, and the boys have been brought up in my box, and they broke free of it. Kate is a classical musician. She does classical music, and she writes scores for orchestras. So it's wonderful. I want to keep working with them, and if it results in another album, then that's the second farewell.
How different a record do you think it would have been without the family involvement, or was that something you couldn't even ponder?
Oh no, I wouldn't have made another solo album. I'm never going to make another solo album. Callum wants me to, but I don't want to do that. My voice is not good enough for it. Not anymore.
No, I think you're sounding great.
Well, I worked at that, and I worked at it, and I put them in keys that I could sing easily. But folk song is something different. If I made another solo album, it would be folk songs, not songs I make up myself. Because the topical songs, I always put other instrumentalists on them, and and I just love writing with the kids. And so I shall see if they and they, some of it is what they want to do, and another of it is keeping Mother alive. They're keeping a section of me going, and they know it. And they know that what we get from each other is valuable.
I did read where you did mention that you were experiencing a little bit of writer's block leading up to this record. Is that something you have a way of working through, or do you just let it run its course? I haven't
written a song I'm really proud of, in a solo song, in 2 or 3 years.
Wow.
And some of the songs on the album, How I Long for Peace is about 22 years old. Tree of Love is about 10 years old. I've been singing them for ages, and my boys hadn't even heard them. And others of them just kind of appeared out of the blue. I don't know where Dandelion and Clover came from. I just sat down, because Callum said, if we're going to have another album, you have to have 5 or 6 new songs of your own. And so that was a forced writing. So that's when I wrote Lubrication and The Puzzle. The Puzzle's about 5 years old. So 6 of the songs on the album are solo by me, and the other 5 are with one of the others.
I love the song "We Are Here." It on the surface appears to be a bit of a comment on social media and the social media influence in the world today. Was there a specific incident that sparked that song?
Well, I came to our songwriting session because Callum and I say, let's write a song. And so we arrange a date, and I nearly always begin with the words, and Callum nearly always begins with sitting there playing the guitar and then gets an idea. I find that fascinating because to me I could never do that. But the idea, I think, possibly was mine, because it baffles me how people sit at a table together eating a meal and looking at their phones. I just don't get it. I really don't get it at all. Or two people walking along on the street and each of them looking at their phones or talking to other people on their phones.
Yeah.
What is this about? You're with someone, and isn't it the height of rudeness to be looking at your phone while you're sitting across from somebody that you like or love well enough to have a meal with? Why do you do it? I don't get it. But there's a lot about modern society. I remember when I first saw my first silent rave, and what? I'm driving along, and there's all these people all dancing together, and I can't hear any music. They're in the yard of a garage in America, and they're all dancing by themselves with their headphones on, and they're all listening to the same piece of music and dancing silently in among the grease spots on a garage forecourt. Why? To me, that is, why would you do it? Why would you not at least put a speaker there so that everybody can hear, and then other people, the drivers who are driving by, can understand this? But it looked like a bunch of crazy people. I stopped and I parked, and I asked one of them, I said, what are you doing? And they said, we're dancing. I said, but are you all listening to the same piece of music? He said, well, of course we are. And he went on dancing. But then the modern dance form, I don't understand. Everybody jigging about on their own. I don't get that either. I grew up dancing with someone else or with a group of people. I didn't just dance away on my own. I'm a dinosaur, and I'm afraid I'm beginning to feel it's a good time to be old and just go somewhere else.
By the same token, you don't appear to be someone who's totally against technology. You appear to be quite tech savvy.
Well, no, I'm not tech savvy. I know what I need to do, and I should have asked if you wanted to record this, because sometimes I record the interview on my phone and send the interview recording to.
No, I'm recording here, so it's fine.
Yeah, good.
Good.
I forgot to.
So you say technology is okay as long as you can control it and don't let it control you. Is that probably the best way of putting it?
Well, technology does control me to a certain extent, but I'm not as close. I didn't sleep well last night, so I'm not doing my job here. I have a setup so that if I choose, I can play the piano. So I can lullaby you. I can put you to sleep.
Oh, lovely. Might go out with a song when we finish. As always with your albums, there's always that dash of humour in there. And that track we just spoke about certainly exhibits that. How important has it been over the years for you to maintain that sense of humour in your music?
Well, I didn't always have quite as much as I have now. Ewan McCall and I were quite serious, and much of our humor was word humor, and some of the songs were just too damn clever, and you had to. One of my best songs goes by so quickly, and the humor is so pinpricked that you really have to pay attention to enjoy it. So the humor now, I owe the fact that I am humorous at all on stage to my present partner, Irene Piper Scott. And we've been together for 32 years now, which is longer than I was with Ewan. That's interesting. Even though we don't live in the same country, we're still together. I've just finished talking to her for an hour now. She said, because with Ewan, my idea was just to sing as well as possible, and to make clever songs, not necessarily to perform. With Irene, she and I played as a duo for 4 years, called ourselves No Spring Chickens, and she could have the audience in stitches with Irish storytelling, but our vibe together on stage didn't work, not for either of us. I was too used to working with Ewan. So when I broke off and started, on my own, she said, well, whatever you do, you need to be funny. You need to make people laugh before you make them cry.
Talk us through the recording process of the album. Listening to it, I get the feel of almost like a kitchen table gathering. It's got a very relaxed, homemade type feel to it. Is that pretty much what you're looking for?
Well, it's recorded in Callum's studio. And I can always relax when I'm at Callum's house. Some of the tracks were added afterward.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It took a lot of work to get through a song without, because my voice is not what it used to be, and I really want to sing way down there, but some of my accompaniments are up here and up there and up there. So I've learned how to transpose on the electric piano, so I can still play in the key that I arranged the song in, like How I Long for Peace, and I can just transpose down. I wouldn't say it's been made at the kitchen table. No, it's been recorded in his studio, and he has a full studio. Mm. He has the whole thing just laid out. Probably, I don't know what your studio is like because you haven't shown me on your camera, but he has a board that's about 2.5 feet wide, something like that, and with all the little buttons and all the little things. Recording ain't what it used to be.
True.
And it aggravates me because I make my little videos on the machine that I'm talking to you on now, which is my laptop right here. And I know how to do that little bit. My kids have shown me how to do it. But I'm not tech savvy. No way am I tech savvy. I actually have a problem going on in the computer in the other room, and I have to phone Callum and get him on board because he knows all about these things. If I have a real tech problem, I phone him and he gets on TeamViewer and comes and does something about it.
Ah, right. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm learning that is the limit of my tech savviness is to call my son.
You do play quite a bit of piano on this album, more so than in the past. Is that an instrument you've really reacquainted with in recent times?
Well, this is several reasons. The piano is the instrument that I am most familiar with. Strangely, as strange as it may seem, people think of me as a banjo player and a guitar player. But if you will have noticed, I very rarely on the guitar play above the 5th fret. Mm-hmm. I don't know all those complicated chords. If I want to change a key, I just move the capo up, or I change from playing it in E position to A position. I'm a very simple guitar player, but the fact that I don't know the keyboard means that I can find my way around if I want to, just by looking for the notes that I want. That's one thing. So I am more at home on the piano. It was my first instrument. I played it since I was 6. And at one point I was quite a skilled classical player. I could really do the stuff. and I was practicing 3 and 4 hours a day. But I didn't have the nerves, and I didn't have the ambition. I had no desire to be a classical player. I just loved the classical music. I stopped playing it when I got together with Ewan McCall. He didn't even know I could play the piano for about 10 years when we were together. He didn't know, and I didn't tell him. We didn't have a piano. We had no room in the house for one. And we were going from club to club to club to club, and you can't take a piano with you. So our dictum was that the instruments had to be portable. So the piano just vanished from my life. And then after he died, I got a piano, and I played some classical music for my kids, and they nearly fell over. They were in their 20s, and they'd never heard me play the piano, and there I'm going into don't think I can do this anymore. The Chopin. I loved Chopin, Debussy, and I loved Bach and Brahms, and I could play those things. Not as well after 20 years as I could. So I really know this keyboard, and I can go on it within the Western harmonic system. But the big thing is that I have a bad arthritic joint now, right in the middle. I have it, right? And it has virtually dictated what I can do in my right hand. I can't. It's important, and it will not. I tell it to do things. Now this is the difference. You can see here. Yeah. So my right hand, I have to learn how to do what this used to do. I have to do with these 3 fingers. And so a claw hammer comes easiest because you just beat down like this. You don't have to pluck up. So the piano, I'm really comfortable on it. And a number of people have commented on that. I think it bothers them, but I say, what the hell, that's what I'm doing. And some of my accompaniments, because I make up my own accompaniments on this album, and some of them I'm extremely proud of. You know, the puzzle, that song's about 8 years old, and it's a bit like some of the things my mother used to do, a little bit, because she was a composer, and I go a bit out of the system. But I've made up some songs that involve the piano. I'll send you 1 or 2 of them, and they're all over the place. But I know what I'm doing on them.
You've been very active online during the pandemic period with your live concerts from home being streamed. How important has it been? Has that really been really helpful for you to get through this lockdown?
You mean my weekly ones?
Your weekly ones, yeah.
At Peggy at 5 on Sunday.
Which have been wonderful.
Oh, thank you. They take quite a bit of preparation because I do them all absolutely live. But I don't mean I always do them at 5 on Sunday, but I produce, they have to be right, a 20-minute slot that's everything like what I want to say. And I haven't picked my nose in the middle of it. So they do take quite a bit of work. In a way, I need to keep going. I feel that anybody who gets up on stage has more than the usual amount of ego. So a huge amount of it is definitely, look at me, this is what I can do. But with folk music, the fact that Ewan McCall and I purposely kept ourselves below the sightlines of the media, we kept ourselves to folk clubs because we thought the grassroots were the most important place to play. And certainly when you see the way the English revival has gone, I think Ewan and I were quite important in going from club to club to club and playing new songs and traditional songs and setting a standard in a medium where amateurs could easily stand up on a stage and sing badly, which they could in a lot of the folk clubs, and some of them performances, because when we went to a club, we always insisted on hearing their own singers for the first 20 minutes. And I'll tell you, some of it was punishment. But some of it was absolute heaven. Especially there was one singer whose name I never learned, a woman singer who we heard twice in Sheffield. Wonderful singer. And the next time we went, we said, where's so-and-so? She says, oh, she's gotten married and her husband doesn't want her to sing in different places anymore. Oh, good. Talk about third world countries. So we heard an awful lot of and the clubs, you could sing in a club that had 60 people in it, or one that had 200 people in it in a terrible sound. There were no microphones at all. Then a microphone was a no-no in a folk club. You weren't folk if you used a microphone. And there was one point where I said you weren't folk if you played a guitar. You had to sing unaccompanied. I'll tell you, a lot of myths going around about folk. So Ewan and I, we kept ourselves, and I don't remember how I got onto this subject, we kept ourselves down where folk came from, Mm-hmm. And I think the policy that our own club formed was important. That singing songs of the when you're performing only, you sing songs in a language you understand and from a culture you come from. And although it was shunned for quite a while, and we were looked down on as folk Nazis at one point, but I do think that the policy had a lot to do with the fact that there are so many good players and singers who are doing British material now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and there are some excellent ones, some really good ones.
There are, for sure.
Yeah, there are.
And just one thing before I let you go, you've got one show out of the way last week. Are there plans to do more?
Yes, going up to Stirling in August, and I'm trying to get Neil to go with me instead of Callum, just because I want to play with both of the boys. And in October we have a Scottish tour.
Oh wow! Back on the road.
Yeah, back on the road.
Yeah.
I can't wait. I can't wait. To go back to the ego thing, I think most performers have an ego problem. We do. We want to be up there, look at me, and we can figure out all kinds of reasons why we're doing it for the audience. But essentially the reason you get up there is because you have a need to do something that you do well, and to do it to make other people or to involve other people. But I think folk music has, for me, a separate. It's a separate part of the performance thing. Why I like keeping going. I'm a bit of an oxymoron, a cultural oxymoron over here in Britain, in that the folk songs I sing are American songs, mostly from the East Coast Anglo-Saxon heritage. Mm-hmm. I don't sing British songs. I think I did once in Peggy at 5 on Sunday, because the poetry is so good and the subject is so good. I did one British song, and nobody came back at me and said, "Why did you do that?" But in this country, as I say, cultural oxymoron, I only sing American songs. And the revival here and the folk movement here is much more interested naturally in British songs. They really are. Mm. And you don't get what you used to get, which is someone from Hackney standing up and singing a Russian song in Russian. You don't have that. You might maybe at a club have a Russian person appearing singing Russian songs, but I don't go to folk clubs anymore. and I don't go solo singing anymore. I'm too old for that. There's too much hassle with that, handling the whole thing myself. So I sing because I love the action of singing. I love feeling the audience when they're all joining in on a chorus, which is hard for the Brits. I love singing a new song and saying something funny before it to open up the mind in another way. And most of, quote, my audience are over the age of 50. And people have picked me up on that. And I said, well, look, we're forced to listen to the music of youth all the time. and this is music which is for older people or for any younger people who want to listen. But there are people who come along to the concerts that Callum and I give who haven't seen each other. Say you go to Stroud and there's a couple of people in the audience. Oh, I haven't seen you since the last Peggy Seeger concert. It's kind of like you're a meeting point for a certain type of person, and the concerts are always full because they want to see if I can still stand up after sitting down for an hour giving my first half. They used to come to see if my earrings would get caught in the auto harp strings, but. So there's a lot of reasons for continuing to go.
Yeah.
But it is essentially that it's keeping me going, and I'm helping keeping other people going by just saying, look, I'm here on Sundays at 5, and if there's another lockdown, I'll start again.
Yeah.
Because God knows I got enough songs.
Peggy, thanks so much for your time. Absolute pleasure to catch up with you again. Thank you for sharing this wonderful new collection of songs with us. And we miss seeing you down here, but we certainly wish you all the best with your Scottish tour.
I won't ever be flying again. I finished that kind of touring, and I loved coming to Australia, even after reading Bill Bryson's book, Down Under.
Ah, right.
Have you read that?
No, I haven't. I've heard about it.
Well, I read it once on tour when I was on tour in Australia by myself, and I was terrified every time I sat down on the loo in case there was a redback spider there. and it has a whole chapter on all the poisonous things in Australia. But I just loved coming to it's a one-off country. There's nothing like Australia. Yeah, so
we've certainly always loved having you here, but this is a fine consolation being able to listen to the new music, and hopefully it won't be the final farewell. There will be more.
No, I would never call it final farewell. No, I wouldn't do that. No,
Good.
No. Anyway,
all the best,
pleasure
Peggy.
to talk to you, John.
You too. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Okay.
Cheers.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.